Hi again. This is Tom McGill and Jerry Powers, members of a group, CORE, Citizens for an Open and Responsible Edgewood. We're bringing you another video. This time we're looking at the state of our lawsuit. We're getting lots of questions, Jerry. What are people asking you?
Mainly they're asking why hasn't John Bassett left office, given that the judgments of the court were to remove him from office for the town to do that, and also that he has already forfeited his office by virtue of profiting from public funds.
Yeah, he's been found guilty of malfeasance, fraud against taxpayers. He should not be sitting in that chair. Is that your thinking?
Yeah, well, these are default judgments too, because for 8 months now, we filed this 8 months ago, and virtually nothing has happened because of the delays of the other side. So it's a delay tactic, common delay tactic in lawsuits, to not participate, but the penalty is you can get a judgment against you because you're not defending yourself.
Yeah, this is a judgment. However, it was arrived at, and I haven't heard any arguments that he's not guilty of these things. Have you heard anything like that?
No, they haven't. They haven't said anything to that effect. And now suddenly, after 8 months of this kind of delay, they're in a panic because we got these judgments, and they have asked for an emergency hearing, which is an extraordinary step, which will happen this coming week to try to get the judge to set aside our judgments against the mayor.
And that'll be this coming Tuesday. This is Friday that we're preparing this, and there's a little irregularity in that process in itself, right? The commission or council wasn't informed or consulted about this. Is that correct?
You know, that's one of the problems, Tom, right? CORE is for Open Responsible Edgewood. That's what our acronym stands for, Citizens for an Open Responsible Edgewood. And everything in town seems to happen in the back room and in the dark, even from the other counselors, from Counselors Abraham and Jaramillo. They asked for a meeting to decide how to go about what needs to happen given these judgments. And it takes 3 counselors under the current rules with this mayor, or the mayor can call a meeting by himself, and they have absolutely refused to do that. So everything that's happening right now is happening in the dark to keep the public unaware of what's happening and unaware from the other counselors.
Now, the governing body was issued a writ of mandamus. They were recognized as not performing their duties, and they were given what is the duration of the writ of mandamus is about 30 days. They have to get this done.
Right.
And so what's the thinking about not having any kind of consultation or meeting? Because they are involved in the lawsuit, they're named.
Well, we can only speculate because they're not disclosing anything. But to my way of thinking, they're using public funds now to defend Mayor Bassett, his wrongdoing, where he's already misused public funds. So this is just piling on what he's already done. And what's really astounding to me is that Councilor Abrams and Hawley they're not paying attention to the fact that by not enforcing the nepotism ordinance in the first place, that's called misfeasance in office, which subjects them to removal. So by congregating around the mayor's wrongdoing and supporting his wrongdoing and defending his wrongdoing, they're actually opening themselves up for the same fate.
I'm also a little bit confused about why is Edgewood defending the mayor for his own personal actions. Is that because he's mayor? Do they have an obligation to do that?
Well, they have the right to defend the town, but the town, all it was asked of the town in the judgment was to enforce its own ordinance. What town is going to fight a judge's order to enforce their own ordinance? Why would they spend taxpayer money to do that? Except that in this case, who's running and making the show and making these decisions is Mayor Bassett, and you can see who it benefits. Who would it benefit in this case for the town not to enforce the nepotism ordinance? Only one person.
Only one person. Well, it's our understanding that the town had insurance for legal, but that insurance was not honored.
Yeah, because the insurance is really only for officials acting in their official capacity, and only under tort law, which means when somebody gets run over by a truck and sues for money and includes one of the governing body, then they'll be defended. But in this case, it wasn't subject for defense like that. And we think that what's happening with the town now, using the town attorney to ask to set aside the judgments, not only against the town, but against John Bassett, is inappropriate.
Right. The quote I heard from the insurance company was, "We cannot defend you from being asked to do what you were supposed to do."
Well put. Well put. Yeah, so it's a strange thing. I mean, some days, we talk about this. It's like, are we in the twilight zone end of municipality, or where is this? Because it's getting so strange, and they're having to defend now as they've been kind of seen to be doing these things. They have a choice right now, Abrams and Hawley, to do the right thing, call a meeting, cooperate with the other two counselors, call a meeting, bring this out into the light of day, and make a public decision about what they're going to do, about whether they're going to comply with the court's order to enforce their own ordinance, and whether they're going to spend money to defend the mayor, which is illegal, or whether they're going to limit their opposition to trying to oppose enforcing their own law.
Well, they're putting the town itself at risk by just ignoring and the court order, and by being belligerent and obstinate.
Yeah. So, and again, it's another episode here. People have asked me why hasn't Bassett left office, and the answer is everything that has happened that we've been participating in has required either the special election, or it's required a court order to get him to do anything, and he's still resisting the transition from mayor council to commission manager. He's still trying to get out of transitioning. So now what he's done is he has given up his ability to do the right thing. He should have resigned, should have left office. I mean, my God, how much more do you need than 70% of the populace saying, we don't like what's happening, we want a change in the government, now you need a court order. So the special election was supposed to be held in August. Bassett refused. He set it for November. The Secretary of State, who's the chief election officer, wrote him and said you have to have it in August. He still wouldn't comply. So the other two counselors had to take him to court, get a court order, and the judge had to order him to do it. That's where we've come with this government.
And he fought it the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
He took what would ordinarily be an $8,400 election. He spent money on lawyers. He fought it. He did everything possible to make the election difficult. It went off beautifully, by the way. He ran up a $50,000 bill so he could go back and say the election cost you $50,000. So he's vindictive and petty in that way.
And a lot of it was spent trying to, as you said, fighting what needed to happen under the law.
And they're in a very odd position. The community voted specifically to fight waste, fraud, and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
That puts Councilors Abram and Hawley in this odd position of fighting their community to protect waste, fraud, and abuse.
Well, the lines have become clear that it is the two counselors and the mayor in the government against the people.
That is correct. And they're getting away with this by just audacity, by just showing up to the office he's not entitled to, and
Mm-hmm.
and calling the attorney, and the attorney has, they have a office full of attorneys waiting their call, and there's no one else to contradict what they're asking. So they have an attorney out there working against the people of this community, running
Yeah.
up bills, by the way.
Yeah. So at this point in time, I think we want to ask people to call and talk to Councilors Abrams and Hawley. It would only take one of them to see the light here. I can't believe that, in lieu of the court order, they've been not enforcing the ordinance, the nepotism ordinance, and they've known about it ever since the mayor admitted in a public meeting. What was that, 9 months ago?
9 months ago, and it was brought up, it was exposed in a public meeting, and it was admitted to, and it lasted for 3 years. No one knew of the relationship in the council room. Council people who were elected after she was hired were never told of the relationship. Now, down below we have some telephone numbers and some addresses. If you would like to just let them know that you want an open and responsible government, that you want accountability, that you want to address wrongdoing and make it right.
So and another thing we can ask for is absolutely do not spend any town money defending the nepotism removal of John Bassett. They're supposed to follow their own town laws, and it says if he's guilty of nepotism, which he's already admitted he is, he needs to be removed. So they have already committed misfeasance by not taking an act that they're required to take by law, and that subjects them to removal from office. I can't believe they're playing with this for what?
And the lawyers are looking for the tiniest details they can possibly find. No one is trying to suggest that crime was not committed and that fraud was not committed and that fraud against taxpayers was not committed or that he is not guilty of malfeasance. They are looking for stalling tactics and playing the game, and they're playing the game with our money and our time. We need to get this situation straight, put our town back on a right track, and realize our potential.
And we're still committed to an open, responsible, and ethical government in Edgewood. And obviously, we're not there yet. We've made some strides. We are definitely in there pitching. We'll be at the hearing. We'll protest the idea that they can spend money on these kind of things instead of what it should be spent for, and that they're fighting the compliance with their own ordinances.
And in the spirit of openness, we will be communicating with you through these videos and through our website, which is edgewoodcorenm.com.
That's the website. Yeah.
And our Facebook page, I Own Edgewood. So we'll be keeping you up with what's going on. We'll be trying to cover all aspects of this story.
And if you feel as strongly about this as we do, it would be an enormous help if you could call Councilor Abrams, call Councilor Hawley, send them emails, let them know that this isn't okay. We've already weighed in with our vote. You would think that would be enough, but obviously it's not. And we're not going to quit until we achieve our goals of an open, responsible Edgewood for all of us. So please help us with this. Call, write, do what you can. Your energy and your time is appreciated.